Hi, welcome to microtechie YouTube channel. In this video, we are going to talk about very interesting functions like text after, text before, text join, text split. These formulas were introduced in 365 versions of Excel, and these guys are very powerful compared to the traditional formulas which we have been using for quite a long time, like left, right, mid. So what these guys can do special and why these guys are very powerful. So let's get into the Excel screen to understand the power of these formulas without much ado. All right, now we are in the Excel screen right now. Hey, in case if you want to use this Excel for practicing after watching this video, you can download this Excel. I have given you the downloadable link in the description section, which I usually do in all my videos. All right. So let's continue with the discussion. What is the requirement here? Now, the first column here holds the details of my transaction. And fortunately, these has to be presented in individual columns like this: country, product, and product category. Character or the text which is splitting each of my required information is the colon symbol. So the character or the text which is splitting your required information, technically they are called as delimiter, because that's one of the terminology. We'll be using it very often in this particular video, so you should know what is delimiter. Delimiter is nothing but the character or the text which is present in between your required text, yeah, or that's the one which is splitting your text. Now here, colon is the delimiter for us. So the country I have to extract and I have to put it in the country column, and the product has to be extracted and given in the product column, and the product category to be extracted and given in the product category column. So now some of you might be thinking, why can't we go ahead and use left formulas like left, right, and mid? The problem here is the problem starts in the left itself. Watch it very closely. I'm going to select the first input for the formula, which is the text, comma. The next input is the number of characters I want to extract from the left side. I can't say 2 because when it comes to the country China and when it comes to the country UAE, the number of characters representing the country is not simply 2, it is 3. So I have a variation number of characters of the country. So when I have a variation, then I can't use this left formula. So the left, right, mid, all these guys have a limitation that the number of characters should be always constant. And especially when it comes to mid, the starting point where the extraction has to happen, that should also be constant. If you have a limitation that they are not in same places, they keep varying, just like this one, what we have in front of us, then how do we manage in that case? Yeah, so now you guys know that left, right, and mid cannot help us, can help only if the number of characters I want to extract is always same. What's the other way we can do it is we can use the feature called text to columns. So I can select these values. I can go to data tab and I can go to text to columns. This is a feature which is used for splitting one text into multiple column of text, and it's asking, hey, is it limited by any specific character? Yes, in our case. I want to click next, and here it's asking me what is that delimiter. In our case, it's a colon, so it's not a tab or a semicolon. I'm going to activate this other, and I'm going to hit the colon. The moment I hit the colon, you can see it got splitted already. And if I say next and then if I say finish, that is going to split and give me the data. One thing which I could observe here is I got the required result. The only challenge is we lost the original value. Probably can we handle that issue in text to columns? So let's go ahead and repeat that process. Now, when it's asking the destination, so I'm going to say, hey, don't present it on the same cell. Why don't you present it from the cell B2 instead of A2? So when I click finish, and now you could see it has populated from the B2 cell and we got the required information. I will not say this is a better method when you have a situation like these values will be changing. If these values are going to keep changing after you complete the process. The output, what you got from the text to column, will not update because they are not formulas. If you say that my input is not going to change at all, then text to column is the fastest and the easiest way to get this work done. But let's say you cannot guarantee that it's always going to be constant. Probably these will be updating. Probably this is a column which I'm extract the result of some other linking process. So whenever the master changes, here also the column will change. So if you have such kind of things, then obviously text to column is not going to help out. Yeah. So we should look for something which is a formula approach, which can take care of that dynamicity in my input values. So there is also one more feature before I jump into the actual formula to talk to you. You can also use something called FLASHFILL, which is also a pretty good tool where you got to give the first output manually and then exactly what you're looking out to be extracted from the input text. Once you give that sample output, okay, all you got to do is just go to this next cell. I'm going to press Control E, E as an echo, and that is going to do the job for us as well. So flash fill, Control E is a shortcut for it, but the requirement for using the flash fill is you need to type one output perfectly and then it produces the rest of the output for you. But flash fill will work perfectly provided the input has a pattern inside it. When I say pattern, the pattern is nothing but the input, the required values are separated by colon. So you can use it. Flash fill output is also a value. It's not a result of a formula. So that means if the input changes, the result will not change. I might have to redo the entire process. Yeah. So let's get into the formula right now. Text split is the formula which we can use to split one text value into columns or into rows. It's purely up to you how you want to see the final result. So let's go through this formulas inputs one by one. The first input is from which is your input text, and that's the first input, comma. The second input is column delimiter. See, do you want to split this and put it into columns? Then you will feed the column delimiter. In this case, yes, we want to split them into different columns, and the delimiter is the colon. So I'm typing it within the codes, comma. It's asking row delimiter. Row delimiter is the input which you will be using when you want to split them and put them into rows rather than into columns. Now here I don't want to put them into rows. I want to put them into columns. I'm not going to feed that input, put a comma and moving on. The next one, it is asking, hey, if there is no text between two delimiters, do you want to ignore them or do you want to consider them? So here is a place where you decide that. Let's say, for example, we don't want to ignore them and we want to consider them. So I'll show you an example so that you get the clarity. What is that true and false, ignoring or accepting? What does difference it creates? We'll see that. Comma, the match mode is whatever I'm saying it as a delimiter. In this case, it's a colon. So there is no question of case sensitivity here. But let's say if your required information is splitted by a random text, which is like, ZZ or TT or CON or something like that. Okay, so do you want that search on the delimiter to happen on case sensitivity basis? So here we don't have to really worry about the case sensitivity part. So I'm going to give it as 1 or 0. It's not going to give any difference. But if your delimiter is a text, not a symbol like semicolon, then you decide whether you want to really search based on the case sensitivity, which is pretty interesting one in this case. Comma, the last input which says pad width is nothing but we're not going to use it here. This is something which you'll be using it when you want to split your text and you want to present it like a grid system, like both columns and rows. And this would be required if your values are separated by two different types of delimiter. One delimiter you would split it as a column, another delimiter you will put it as a row. And if you don't find a delimiter in one of the combination what you want to see, those are the ones you define it in the last parameter, but I'm not going to get into that part right now because the requirement is pretty simple here. We're just trying to split it and give it into columns. So the last one I'm not going to feed, I'm going to simply skip it. I'm going to close the braces and hit the enter. The output is a kind of an array output. So you don't have to write the formula for the rest of the values. It automatically populates it for you. And now let's get into the part of, remember I said that do you want to consider the empties or not? So let's say, for example, if this product detail is not present, hit enter this time. Now watch it, this cell is left as blank for me because I said do not ignore the empty. If you do not find text between the two delimiter, then give it to me as a blank cell. Okay, but if I say true here instead of false, where I'm saying ignore the empty, see the way it's going to present for me. Now, this case is a good example that why you should not ignore it. Yeah. So if you ignore it, the category is going to come and sit in the column of product, which is absolutely wrong. So I'm going to put it back to false. For the rest of the things, all I have to do is simply double click, or I can just simply select and drag it. We got for every single value. So text split will help you to manage when you want to split your required information which is appearing in one column into multiple columns, and you do not have the standardization in terms of number of characters, the positions of the delimiter, then text split is something which you should definitely try. I don't want to split everything. Can I extract only certain number of characters before a particular delimiter or after a particular delimiter? Okay, instead of splitting it, can I get only the required information what I want? That's where is something called text after or text before comes into place. Let's say, for example, here I want to take only the country name, not the rest of the things. So what I can do here is, can you use the formula text before and see it's asking me what's your original text. This is my original text, comma, and what's the delimiter? The delimiter is the colon. So now what I'm trying to say is, hey, get me the text before this delimiter. Now, if the delimiter is going to appear more than once, and this is the input, instance number is nothing but after which occurrence you want to take the data. So I want to take the country. So after the first occurrence of the delimiter, I want to take it. So I'm going to say 1. Even if you do not feed that, the default value will be considered as 1. So now the rest of the things are quite not required for a requirement right now, but let me quickly take you through what that actually means. So here the fourth input is nothing but, do you want to consider the case sensitivity when I'm searching on the delimiter? The fifth input is when I'm searching the delimiter, if I don't find it, what do you want to see? Do you want to see the error, or do you want to see the same text again, or you want to see simply a blank cell? That's what you define in the fifth one. The last one, hey, if I don't find the delimiter, instead of saying error, do you want to see something else? So that is the last input. Okay, so what I'm thinking here is, let's give all those inputs. Why do we have to skip? So here, case sensitivity part is not going to really create a big difference, but still we'll go ahead and do that. I want to say I don't want the case sensitivity, and please make sure that you match the delimiter perfectly. And if you do not find the delimiter, tell me no delimiter. I'm going to close the braces and let's hit enter. Now you could see we got it. For example, if I'm going to have, okay, I changed the first colon to a semicolon, and let me also change the second colon also to semicolon. What I got right now, what I'm searching for is the colon, but I got the same text itself as an output. The reason is because of the fifth input what I gave. So here, if I say 0, what's it? So what is meant by 0 here is, when I say 0 in the fifth parameter, the fifth input, look for the exact match of my delimiter. If you do not find it, give me error. Now, If this is not given, then you'll be able to understand what's going to happen. So let's not give the last input if not. You can see right now, because I'm saying 0 in the fifth parameter, which means don't match to end. So that means it's going to search for the exact match of the delimiter. So don't confuse with these words. I'm trying to give you practically what that fifth parameter means. The match end means when you say 0, you're saying get me the exact match of the delimiter. If you don't find the exact match, give me an error. Now, if I say 1, if you do not find an exact match, then you give me the same text itself. So that's what it actually means, that 0 and 1 in the fifth parameter. So what is advisable? Now you guys can guess that it is better to have 0 because we need to search for the exact match of the delimiter. Now, if you do not want to see this kind of error, that's the role of the last input, where you can say no delimiter found. So I hope you guys got all the inputs clarity about this formula. So first input, which is my text from where I want to extract, and what's a delimiter I'm searching for, and from which occurrence you want to extract the data, and is it case sensitivity or not? Do you want to look for the exact match or not? If you do not find the exact match of the delimiter, instead of error, what you want to see. That is what we are trying to get through this formula. So now we don't have the exact match of the colon. So let's put back these colons into place. Now you could see it worked out beautifully. We got that answer. So we're going to double click and it's going to do that. So now similarly, like text before, I can also use text after. Okay, so let's go here and say text after. Okay, the same text. Now you guys can understand, like all the inputs are exactly same. The only the thing is the logic is after the delimiter, not before the delimiter. Okay, everything else is the same. So the first input is the text. The delimiter is the colon. Comma, instance is the first instance, because this time I want the product name and the category. So that's going to come right now. Comma, then is it case sensitivity? No, I'm not going to consider the case sensitivity. In the case, do you want to look for the exact match of the delimiter? Yes. If you don't find it, what do you want to see? I'm going to say no delimiter. Close. Now you can see. So we used text after, so it is extracting after the first instance of the column. What text after, text before, both you can use it in order to extract the value from a text, whether before or after a particular delimiter. So we saw 3 different formulas here. The first formula, what you guys have learned, is text split. The next formula, what you guys have learned, is text before. And the next formula you guys have learned here is text after. All these are basically used as an extracting function. That is what we have seen here. So let's go to the next one and see what we have when it comes to joining the text together. See here, I have the customer first name, the customer last name, the city of the customer, state of the customer, and when the sale was completed. So how we want to present this is in a single cell. So we want to join them with a comma in between them, along with the text like purchased on so-and-so date. Now, the default practice sometimes people use is concatenate. The challenge in concatenate is I can't select the text like this. It has to be text 1, text 2, text 3. And moreover, I want to give a comma in between these values, which I can't give it. Same when it comes to concat, also the same problem here. It does allow me to select. Okay, but let's see the result of these formulas first of all. Concatenate, if I select all these, let's select up to the state, and let me show you what happens here. See, it does not take all the other cells, it took only the first cell. So that's the issue with the concatenate, the traditional formula. So if I go for the next version of the formula, which is concat, this allows me to select a range But the problem here is I would not be able to put a delimiter in between. So that is not going to work out. So the best one to go for is the formula text join. So the first thing it's going to ask you is, hey, what's the delimiter you would love to keep between these text? I would love to keep, let's say, a comma, then again, same, like remember ignoring the empty or considering the empty. So here, because I'm joining, I don't want to have a gap in between. In case if you really want to know which are the transactions where the city is not there or last name is not there, state is not there, it is better not to ignore it, consider the empty cells. In my case, I'm going to ignore it. So true, comma. Now it's asking the text. So you just need to go ahead and select your text. Now I'm going to select all these up to the state, but not the date. I'll tell you why I'm not doing it for the date. Let's see what happens here. So then I select it. So you can see right now, it has joined our individual text with the delimiter what we specified, which is comma. Okay, now along with this, what we need is we want to join this with the text purchased on combining with this date. Yeah, so that's what I'm looking for right now. So when I hit enter, now what's the tricky part here? So what are we missing? Well, okay, this ampersand is not needed. We just need to give the, sorry, we just need to give the comma. Still, I'm living the life of the conventional formula writer. Okay, I'm trying to come out of that practice, so of using ampersand or concatenate. All right, so we just need to give the comma because the individual texts are given. So let's see what happens here. So look at the way the dates are coming in. We got this perfectly, but the issue here is the date is not coming as a date, because when you concatenate a date with other than date values, the date turns into a numeric, which is a common issue in Excel. Now, that's where another interesting function comes into play, like simply text. Now, using this formula, I can change a format of a value to the desired format, just like you do in format cells. I'm going to say, hey, whatever value you have in the E2, it's actually a date, and you try to put it in this format, what I'm requesting you to do it. It's going to give me that value in this format, what I'm asking. Okay. So now when I hit enter, after closing the actual formula, now you could see it gave the date in the proper format, what we are looking for. So why am I getting a comma even after the text purchased on? Because the delimiter is comma here, which that's what we said. So every text will be separated with the comma. Absolutely. Probably if you do not want it, what we could have done here is we need to do this in a little conventional way of doing it in this fashion. So I'm skipping the comma part, and I'm just putting it the ampersand symbol, which is the conventional way of joining it. So now if you could see it, this is totally considered as a one text for us. Okay. So this is my initial text concatenated with the date converted into proper date format. So now text join will help you to join the text from different columns into one. The good thing, you can specify the delimiter, you can select them as a range, but remember, when you select the cells which is having date also in between or a time in between, please make sure that you put them into the right format using the text formula what I've shown you in this case. And that's the reason voluntarily I brought the date value also in this video, so you could see that it is important. Sometimes you need to use the text formula to put the date and time into proper formats. All right, so I hope you guys got it. What is this text join formula is all about? So that's the fourth formula in this video, what you guys have learned it. So let's go to the third sheet. Case sensitivity, converting the values into capital letters, uppercase, lowercase, proper case. For those, still the conventional formula still wins on the table. Like you could use upper, lower, proper. Since this is an email address, I would love to keep it in lower cases completely. So upper, lower, proper, it still wins the table. The flash fill will also do it, but remember, the flash fill output will not be dynamic, but whereas the formula will be dynamic, as and when the input changes, this will also change. So in terms of case changing, we haven't got any kind of new things or new formulas. So the older guys are still playing a very crucial role, like lower, upper, proper. So these guys will still help you when you really need to get the job done. I love these guys because when you ask an email address from 10 people, each person will send in different ways he likes it. But that's the time these formulas plays a crucial role to put our report into more presentable and professional way, isn't it? Yeah, so let's go to the last sheet, talking about cleaning up the data. Cleaning when we talk about removing extra spaces. Now, removing extra spaces, removing non-printable characters, very, very important. Watch this second value. There is something you see, but when you double click inside, you don't see it. But when you click outside, you could see some symbol inside that value. But this is something I'm talking about, something called non-printable characters. You will see that symbol inside the cell, but you can't access it at all. Okay, so how do we clean up that kind of things out of your values? So first, let's talk about extra spaces. When you have extra space in your text values, how do you remove it? You can use the trim function, and let me show you how this works. So we got values are more having more than one space, simply one space. We got all the different types of combinations here. So when I use trim, you could see it is removing the extra space. The question is, what is considered as an extra space? Anything more than one space is considered as an extra space. So here it's simply one space. So trim did not remove it because it thought it's a needed space. But here, whereas if you see the third one, if more than one space we had it, so it removed anything more than one space and kept one space. If you do not want the space at all, then how do you remove it? Again, you can use find and replace tool, but the output of that tool will not be dynamic when the input changes. Then in that case, how do you manage it? So that's where instead of trim, I would suggest you guys to go ahead and use something called substitute, which is a very powerful formula when you really want to take out all the spaces in the value. Okay, only extra spaces, it's a trim. All the spaces, it's a substitute. So first input is the text from which you want to remove it, comma. All the text here is nothing but which is the text you want to substitute with. So space is the text I want to substitute with something else, comma, something else. What you want to replace the space with. So I don't want to replace it with anything. So I'm just going to open the double quotes and close double quotes. So the first input is the text. Second input is what you want to replace, which is the space. I've typed within the double quotes. And what I want to replace it with, nothing. So instead of saying nothing, I just mentioned open double, close double quotes. Instance is nothing but, do you want to replace only the first occurrence or all the occurrences? I want to replace all the occurrences, not specific to the first or second occurrences here. So close, and then if you drag the formula down, you could see that no spaces are there in the email addresses anymore. Everything has been taken out of your email address now. So let's go ahead and see removing non-printable character. How do we manage that? So to remove the non-printable characters, what do we mean by non-printable characters? Let me quickly take you through the Microsoft website. Okay, so clean is a formula which is purely meant for such work, which will help you to replace that non-printable characters to nothing, meaning it's going to be taken out completely out of your text. So I want to say, please clean this email address if it has any non-printable characters. So when I hit enter, the first one doesn't make any difference because we do not have anything like that. Let's go ahead and double click to populate for the rest of the cells. You could see all those non-printable characters, which looks like a rectangle, a vertical rectangle, is all got removed here. So what is non-printable characters? So all types of characters will be removed. No, what's it? So if you go to the description about the clean function from the Microsoft, here they very specifically mention that non-printable characters means the first 32 non-printing characters. That's what they're trying to say. This is something which you guys have to keep it in mind. When I share this in my training programs, people say that, Hari, despite of using clean function, still that particular symbol is present inside the cell. I'm not able to remove it. Then how do I get rid of that? Then I would suggest them to go ahead and use the substitute. Go inside the cell, copy that, and put it inside the substitute formula, and you have to manage that way only. If clean does not help you, then substitute is your ticket. It's not my advice. You could see even the Microsoft itself is suggesting you that removing spaces and non-printing characters from the text, if clean doesn't help you, then substitute is your alternative, my friends. All right, so we have come to the end of the video. So that is all in this video. So believe this video would have given you a good amount of confidence in managing the issues on the text values on your data. Do let me know in the comment section which is that formula which you use very often in your day-to-day. If you like this video, hit the like button, share it to your friends and colleagues. If you're the first time viewer of our channel, do not forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification icon so that next time when I come up with an interesting content, you will be notified. And we'll meet again with another interesting content. Until then, take care of yourself. Signing off, Hariharan.